Through the Leadership Lens is sponsored by Irish Propane Corporation, serving Western and Central New York. For all your residential and commercial propane needs, choose Irish Propane. Irish Propane is a locally operated, New York State certified, woman-owned business. For more information, visit irishpropane.com. Irish Propane delivers peace of mind.
Hello and welcome to another Through the Leadership Lens, a podcast presented by the Women in Propane Council. I am Freddie Riddler.
And I'm Bridget Kidd.
And today's special guest is Paula Summers, certified lease and finance professional, senior vice president, sales and strategic partnership at Vision Financial Group, and is the chair of the Women in Propane Council. So, Paula, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Freddie. Thank you, Bridget. It's a pleasure to be here today.
And we're so excited to have you here.
Yes. So, Paula, as you know, before we get started about the big question, what does leadership mean to you? Could you just tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Sure, absolutely. So I am the Senior Vice President of Sales and Strategic Partnerships for Vision Financial Group. So our company supports the propane industry by providing financing for a variety of assets that they're acquiring to grow their businesses, including bobtails, transport trailers, tanks, software, route management software, tank monitors. So any type of asset or software that a propane company needs. We've been in the industry since 1999, and it's just been a pleasure to be a part of that growth. In addition, as being so active in the propane industry, I am the incoming current chair of the Women in Propane Council, which is just my pleasure.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Paula, so if you could tell us from where you sit today, what does leadership mean to you?
Well, I think that the important thing that I always like to remember is leadership is not always in the title. I think it's really important for us to distinguish between management and leadership. A leader doesn't necessarily always manage a team of 100 people, right? A leadership may have one person that reports to them, but they're a leader in their industry and in their companies. So I always think that leadership should be incorporated into our daily lives and kind of extend beyond work to family and community.
Great answer. And that's we haven't heard that one on a podcast yet about leadership being one person that you're leading or a whole group. And that's fun to hear that as a perspective from you, Paula. And I'd like to hear more about that because a lot of times when we ask, what does leadership mean to you? I feel like they're always managing a group, like more than one. Could you go into more depth of what that means of being a leader just to one person?
Well, I think individual relationships are so important. And if you can make a difference in one person's life, whether that's bringing some value, giving them some new ideas about how to address a problem that they're trying to solve, I think you help breed other leaders. I think that in my case, I've been kind of one of these people who's a problem solver for their company, whether it was in my previous career in real estate development or my current career in finance. And being able to find ways to be a leader outside of my company has been really beneficial to my career. For instance, being the chair of the Women in Propane Council, I'm able to reach out and kind of be interactive with many people in the industry, in addition to within my own company.
What about, Paula, as you've indicated that you've changed careers and now you're in the propane industry, how has your view of leadership changed, do you think, maybe from graduating college and advancing in your career and changing careers?
Yeah, I think that, starting from, an engineering degree, and engineers like to have control, right? So we're used to looking at equations and looking at documents and value engineering. And one of the things that's really changed for me as a leader is that ability to give up control. Mm-hmm. I think that it's really difficult for the people that you're leading to become leaders themselves if a leader is micromanaging. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really where I've seen the most growth for me personally, is to be able to say, okay, well, I'm working with these people because they're capable, right? And because they have the ability to make their own decisions, and being able to step back and let people make mistakes, right? I mean, how else are we going to learn? I think as great leaders, we've learned more and I'm not calling myself a great leader. I'm saying people who have become leaders have learned more from their mistakes sometimes than their successes.
Well, this is through the leadership lens, so we do see you as a leader, Paula. So, Paula, as you know, this is called the podcast through the leadership lens. So, who is a leader to you? Who has been that mentor for you in your life, Paula?
Yeah, Freddie, I think that I automatically think of my father, Fred Summers, who's the founder of our company. And I think of a really good leader as somebody who inspires others. So I think his leadership style is really, even though he's the founder of the company, it's about positivity, celebrating the successes of others, and making sure that everybody feels valuable. It's all the stakeholders that are involved in making a decision or in the success of a company. So just as an example for our business, you have the manufacturer of the equipment, you have the propane company who's acquiring the equipment, you have us who's coming in to finance that equipment. So everybody in our team is made to feel valuable. The credit person who is approving the transaction, the documentation person who is issuing documents to the customer, and the customer themselves, and recognizing that each piece is so important. So I think that a really, really good leader shows that every person of the team is valuable.
What about, is there a time where you've been in a leadership role and it's been just tough to maybe get the team to jive or to align priorities? And because I agree with you that being a good leader allows you to achieve a goal. Right now, that goal may be an individual success or it may be the team accomplishing something, but it's never, at least in my experience, it's never without its own challenges. Is there a time where you could think of like, gosh, this was really tough and maybe it went well or maybe it didn't, but it was a really big learning opportunity?
Yeah, I think that, I've been involved in many women's groups. So whether that's women in civil engineering, women in recycling, women in propane. And one of the things that's similar in all those groups is really trying to also have men feel comfortable being part of women's groups. So realizing that, we like to say that propane is a male dominated industry, recycling is a male dominated industry, engineering, et cetera. Pretty much every industry is male dominated outside of just a couple, right? So realizing that, working together with men are the best supporters of women as they're growing and leading in their career. And we've changed a lot over, the last 100 years. I mean, we're just now on the 100th year anniversary next year of women having the right to vote, right? So we've changed culturally in that women are now not only managing their families, but they're managing their businesses, and we're all working together. And it's really become quite a beautiful thing, in my opinion. So I think really making sure that we're not isolating others in the group to really come and work together. And I think that's been kind of a challenge, but I think that the programs that these groups offer are important to be for both men and women in the industry so that we can all work together.
It's fun to listen to those comments because obviously me being a man on a Women of Propane podcast, then you saying make men feel more comfortable. That's like the whole Women in Propane. Like when I first was asked to join and just be part of those meetings, I was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure you want to incorporate? I mean, Women in Propane, you're asking Freddie, Nancy Coop asked me to come to these meetings. And then these podcasts started, and it's fun to actually hear the stories. So the question I have for you is you're the chair for Women in Propane. And what does that mean to you being the chair of this, like you said, you're the Women in Recycling and you're all these different organizations that you're part of. What do you like about being on the Women in Propane chair? Like what's your favorite thing about that? What made you decide to do that?
Well, I think it's, being part of an organization that is supporting the entire industry. I think that's what's really important to recognize. So whether it's through a mentorship program, leadership programs, the annual event we have the Women in Propane sponsors at the Expo, the Leadership Forum, just giving everyone in the industry an opportunity to find ways to grow in their career. It's just a great group of people to collaborate with. I think everyone is there for the right reasons. the thing I like about groups like, young executive groups and women in propane groups, it's almost, a starting point to be in a group of peers so that you feel comfortable to kind of maybe have some leadership opportunities within that group, and then extending out beyond that, right? So maybe you start as a chair of a committee group within a young executives group or a women's group, but then that enables you to kind of develop some leadership skills so that you can go on to potentially become a leader in your own company, or a leader within NPGA, or a leader within PERC. So it's really, to me, kind of I don't want to call it a safe space. That's probably not the term I'm looking for, but that's just what kind of popped into my mind. But, kind of a space within peers that you feel a little bit more comfortable to maybe share your voice.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And I think it's the word that keeps coming to my mind is it's almost a little incubator to let you grow those skills, a lot of them soft skills, so that you can apply them somewhere else. That's something we talk about a lot on the podcast is, how do you refine your leadership skills? And certainly you're doing that in taking on another leadership role, but are there ways that you practice and flex those leadership muscles outside of work and even outside of the Women in Propane Council? And maybe any suggestions you have for people who are a little bit hesitant about jumping in maybe to the Women in Propane Council or putting themselves out there to be a little bit vulnerable?
I think we talk about vulnerability a lot in so many areas, and I think it's really important. We had Kathleen Quinn Vital was our speaker this year at the Women Propane Leadership Council, and she said one of the things she hates is arrogance, and I couldn't agree with her more. Being able to be vulnerable and not being afraid to reach your hand out and say, "Hi, I'm Paula. It's nice to meet you. This is what I do." Right? Because we're all humans. We're all here in this human experience. I think other ways people can get involved with leadership if they're not ready to step up, maybe in their company, is within their community. I serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of Charleston, and we hear tree removal requests, sidewalk changes, variances, things like that. And it enables me to be involved in my community, but also have a little bit of a leadership role as well. I think, school boards are a great way to get started. Churches, anything where I think the best way to get started as a leader is to start somewhere where you feel comfortable. And then you can kind of grow from there.
Yeah, that Kathy, the Leadership Forum keynote speaker, she was really good. And it's fun to listen to her interact with everyone, all the people that were in the audience. And you could really tell she has really defined her leadership skills because she can almost change her mood, her story based on who she was talking to.
Right.
And that's really important to see that in a leader. So, Paula, what have you seen with leadership skills that have changed between, pre-COVID to now? Before you could go to your staff and talk to them in person, have in-person meetings, have, your luncheons with the staff. And then COVID comes around and just like that, everyone's remote. Our company, we're still remote. A lot of us do come to the office still, but we realize that there's a lot of good staff out there that are across the US instead of just in one small area. So here, our leadership has changed with how do we engage with these remote workers? How has it changed for you with your business when now we have to deal with this virtual world?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one of those ongoing things I think we're all dealing with as business owners and managers and leaders, is finding the right people, allowing some flexibility in the work-life balance, right? But also making sure that these employees are still getting the leadership, mentorship opportunities that they need. And that really just can't be replaced by Zoom. I think that, we really need to make sure, what I've seen is that our employees loved working from home. They love the flexibility and, being able to go to a baseball game of their child, being able to take care of themselves in terms of going to doctor's appointments or exercising, whatever the case may be. I think the future, I think employers need to have flexibility. And I think that we're going to see this hybrid work environment as it's here to stay. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that generations before us it was you work 60, 80 hours a week, and that led to some detrimental health results, right? So I think happy employees, happiness breeds success, right? So I think if we can find this balance between allowing flexibility, but also making sure that employees are getting, like I said, leadership opportunities, mentorship opportunities, I think that's really going to be the way of the future and the way of success.
Yeah, I think it's neat to see. I mean, we struggle at Perk with what's the right balance, right? You're remote, we don't have that core office staff anymore, which I think is pretty common now that you don't have a home base. But what I think the opportunity is, but maybe also a risk in hiring on new people, is you have to have really tight knit onboarding plans so that those new hires, my concern is really that you don't have that person who's going to walk by your desk and you can say, hey, I don't know, how do we do X, Y, or Z,
Right.
right? Or why do you do it this way? And so those people who are being hired, in my opinion, really have demonstrated incredible independence to be able to go into an environment like that. I mean, we've hired 2 women on my team who are, I'm going to brag on them, are absolutely incredible. And we've only met in person 3 or 4 times. And but they're women who are incredibly intelligent, driven, and, you're not dealing with shrinking violets who are going to wait to be told what to do. And I think for an employee, that's an incredible skill set to market right now that maybe wasn't as desirable before.
Right, right. And I think looking outside the box of where to attract talent, right? And
Mhm.
where to find the right people. Um, you know, the propane industry, it's been the same for many, many years, but it's also changing. And there's a lot of things happening that are really exciting. We're talking about renewable propane now, something that we wouldn't have talked about in previous years. So maybe there's an opportunity to bring in people that have that STEM background
Mhm.
into the industry. There was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal recently about, hiring people that are later in their career, maybe in their 50s and 60s, that
Mhm.
can really add a lot of value to an organization. So, I think being open to different ideas and how you're attracting and retaining talent is really important.
Mhm. It's kind of a fun time to be I mean, I think it's a great time to be in the propane industry because we're talking a lot about renewables and the marketer of the future and, what does that look like in expanding markets, and working with these manufacturers. It's incredible to see how fast companies and industries and individuals change when
Right,
they want to.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Well,
We have
look
a
at I'm sorry. Well, even just look at tank monitors, right? I mean, for years we're just looking at K factors, and
yeah,
Yep.
now we're actually using technology to
Mhm.
manage, how we're delivering fuel.
right.
Yeah,
It
it's
really
great.
is incredible.
It is, and when viewers watch this, Nashville, the Southeastern Expo was just last weekend, and part as a vendor for our company, we tend to walk around at least once during this event just to see all the new vendors. It's crazy how it's growing, and new technology, new ideas. I mean, it doesn't stop, and it is a fast paced, moving industry for sure.
Mhm.
So with
And
the
it's
fast-paced moving industry, sorry, Bridget,
no, go
with
ahead.
the fast-paced moving industry, Paula, what do you do to stay on top of it all? Like what do you do? Would you mind sharing just one story at your company of how you stay ahead of the curve with all the new things that are kind of bubbling up every year?
Well, our industry is interesting. So, speaking of the equipment finance industry, so when I first joined the industry, I came from the engineering world. Okay, so I was busy managing other engineers, developing real estate, bugging developers to save more trees and wetlands, and then I come to the finance industry, which is really my family business that my father started in 1991, which I didn't want to be any part of because of an obstinate daughter and thought that was dreadfully boring, right? So when I joined the business, I thought, well, gosh, I can really cater this to me and my background and my personality and my passions. So propane was just kind of a natural fit for me. So interestingly, so when I started, I thought we were the only finance company in maybe the Northeast, let's say.
Mhm.
So I had no idea what a competitive industry it was. And I think what we've done really well is, in sales, they always say, know your customer, right? Well, for us, it's know your industry.
Mhm.
So we're not just this lender that can say, oh, well, we know just as much about, every piece of equipment that's available to finance. We're very directed into the propane industry. So we understand that, there's seasonal payments that might be better for one customer versus another. Understanding that this, our politicians are kind of directing us into this electrify everything, right?
Mhm.
And that's not staying relevant and understanding what your customer is going through, I think is important in any type of industry. And we're all in sales. Okay. So whether you're selling financing or route management software or the values of perk, right? We're all out there trying to say what was the value that we're bringing.
Yeah. And I think that's the only way you can stay ahead is understanding what is coming today. And we talk about this at Perk all the time. We have to have a foot in today and a foot 25 years from now. And thankfully, we have leaders like yourselves in the industry who are doing that at your own individual company level as well and willing to share that information.
Well, I think the NPGA is such a great resource. I mean, the convention, all the breakout sessions just really have so much value.
Mhm.
And, if you're attending NPGA and you're not going to the breakout sessions, you're not being involved in the industry. You're not learning what's
Mhm.
coming next. So there's so many resources out there. It's
Mhm.
very easy to stay involved and be, knowledgeable about what's changing.
And engaged. And so my background is in association management and other industries. And it's incredible. What I love so much about it is there's industry experts. And you could be an expert in something and you just got here, or you've been in the industry your entire life, as is your father and grandfather. But that willingness to share and willingness to help other people succeed is like the insurance policy for a professional trade association. I think it's an incredible dynamic to watch happen. And the only way it's successful is if the membership and industry representatives are willing to do that.
Right. Right.
Awesome. So I have a question I always like to ask during this section here, because you seem like always like happy. Like when I see you in Nashville, you're always smiling. And I said this to a few other people we did podcasts with, but you're one of those people that like I don't see any negativity. You're just like always positive. We couldn't find the missing box, the whole leadership forum, and you're just all, yeah, we'll go here and we'll walk there and we'll walk this way and walk this way. And you're still saying hi to everyone and everyone else is panicking. What inspires you, Paula? Like what inspires you every day to wake up and just say, you know what? Today is an opportunity to make a difference.
Well, Freddie, thank you for the nice compliment. That's very kind of you. I am a glass half full kind of person, and to me, there's just I don't want to waste time, being negative. Right? There's so many things to be positive about, and this obviously I think comes with age too. Right? I mean, I think perspective. Um, I practice yoga every day. So, I take time for myself and I take time to breathe and kind of turn off the brain for an hour. Um, but I really get a charge from connecting with people. It's really brings me a lot of joy to not only be inspired by others, but to bring value and happiness and, provide inspiration to them. Um, I just think that this world it can be so challenging sometimes if we allow the technology and this is great. I love that we're having a Zoom and we're having a podcast and it's fantastic and taking advantage of what technology has to offer, but not losing that human interaction. There's still people that want to do business with a handshake, and that's important. It's important to know that you have the people that you need to go see in person, And there's other people that, necessarily they're okay working over Zoom. But I think
Mhm.
embracing all those technologies, and I went off course there a little bit.
That was
But,
good.
I just feel that you win more bees with honey than vinegar, right? And just, I really just try to bring positivity into everything I do.
You
That's
win
great.
more bees with vinegar.
No, more
Honey.
With honey, sorry. That's what I meant. Then vinegar. Yeah, sorry. I was just writing it down the same time I was saying it. I'm going to keep that quote. That's a fun one.
Yeah, that's a fun one. Well,
Yeah.
and we just everybody wants to be recognized with a smile. I try to I try to say hello and be friendly to everyone I see. We're all in this life together, and part of it is just watching other people succeed and be happy in their lives.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great transition, Freddie.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So, Paula, this next round is called the whip round. So you can kind of let down the guard a little bit, relax a little bit. Now
Yeah.
you can practice your yoga breathing,
Mhm.
Okay.
which I have to ask because on your LinkedIn page it says you enjoy doing a handstand on your yoga mat. So that might come in because I don't know if Bridge and I were talking about trying to do a handstand right now, and I think it'd be a disaster. So if you can
Well,
still do a handstand, that's pretty amazing.
it took me about 5 years to figure out how to do it. Once you get past about 12 years old, it gets harder and
Yeah, right.
harder.
Right. My daughter will do things. She does gymnastics and she'll do these things. She's like, Mom, can you do this? I'm like, no, and I'm fairly certain I never could. But I love watching you do it.
So that's the good round, the whip round. We're just going to ask you some fun questions. You can just answer them. We keep it kind of short. We'll try to get through about 3 or 4 a piece, and then we'll finish up the podcast. So go ahead, Bridget, you get this started.
Okay, so this is my favorite. Now, I don't know if it's going to apply because you seem to live downtown Charleston. What do you keep in the trunk of your car?
I I would say 90% of the time I have something for the thrift store in the back of my car. So
Okay.
whether it's shoes, clothes, whatever the case may be, I feel like there's always something back there. And when I pass a thrift store, I'll eventually donate it.
Oh, good for
It
you.
accumulates.
Yeah, I like to go through my things and kind of, get rid of the things that I'm not utilizing so someone else can use them.
So it goes from your house to the trunk, not house to a box. Then in the
Sure.
thrift store, it just goes right to the trunk.
Straight to the trunk. Yeah.
That may be my problem is that mine goes from my house to a garbage bag and sits in the garage.
Yeah.
Right to the trunk.
Right to the trunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you could talk to your 16-year-old self, what advice would you tell your 16-year-old Paula?
Oh, this is easy. On confidence. I feel like if I would have had the confidence, it took me a long time to feel confident in myself and my career and my intuitions. And I would have told myself to have confidence in who you are. Don't be afraid to go outside of your comfort zone, and don't be afraid to listen to your intuition. A lot of the changes that I've made in my life have been not easy ones, but I've listened to my intuition and I've been successful because of it.
It takes a long time to get there, I think, for
Yeah.
a lot of people. Okay. If you had a superpower, what would it be and why?
Ooh. Hmm. Wow. That, it's interesting. I hear that question a lot and I've never thought about what my answer would be.
Right. We ask that in interviews, every interview, and I still get stumped myself. I'm like, I don't know what I would say.
Yeah, because you don't want to say anything that's I guess I'll just say the first thing that popped into my head.
Yes.
I'd love to be able to fly.
Heck yeah.
Number one response.
Yeah.
I want a cape. I want to fly. Just be able to get all over wherever I want to go. I want to be able to fly to Paris and have breakfast, and then fly to Spain and have lunch, and be back home for dinner. That would be my super.
I'm with you. I think that'd be awesome.
That segues right into my question. Where's your favorite or your ideal vacation spot?
I would say any walkable city that has kind people, fantastic food, and culture.
Nice.
Yep.
What about, okay, if you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Wow.
That's a
Hmm.
great description. Wow.
Wow,
Yes, yes,
right.
that's it. Wow. Isn't that the word you think of when you say me? Um, Gosh, I would say
Great
Thoughtful.
word.
Yep.
and that
Humble.
is thoughtful in the content that I want to bring to others, and also thoughtful about what other people are going through. One of the things that my brother and I always talk about is, if we have a conversation with someone and it goes poorly, you never know what that person is going through, right? They could be going through a personal tragedy, or just having a bad day. So just kind of being kind and thoughtful about what others are going through, and what you're bringing to the table as well.
Mhm. Thinking of others, that's a good way to live. So I have a question. If you wrote a book about your career, what would the title be?
Moxie.
Oh,
I
wow.
love it.
Now that literally just popped out of my head. So
Popped in.
Some
yeah,
ideas are the best ones that come right away.
It is. That's a sign.
wow,
Yeah.
maybe so.
That's a sign. I love it. All right. Now I'm going to ask one last one that's not really on our list, but what is the best advice you ever received?
So I think I'm going to keep this short because this is from my dad too. So this is everything that you do in life can be summed up in 10 two-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to be.
Wow. That's great advice.
I mean, it's really just not relying on others to kind of see how you're going to be developing in your career.
Mhm.
Saying, well, gosh, that person wouldn't give me a promotion. So and so did this. It's up to us, right? We have to take the initiative to grow and make decisions, and put ourselves in the position to succeed.
Mhm. Paula, I'm stealing that. I'm taking that.
Yeah.
I'm taking that to my kids tonight at dinner. That's going to
Yeah,
be our dinner table conversation.
you
That
have to
seems like it
credit
should be on
Club
a
7.
plaque.
I
Yeah.
will. I am going to credit your dad with that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great
Well,
lesson.
what a great way to end the podcast,
Yeah.
too. Thank you, Paula, for being on the podcast. It's been a lot of fun to get to know you and your leadership skills and everything about Paula Summers.
Yeah. Thanks, Paula. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you. I really enjoyed it, and thank you so much for hosting these podcasts. I think they're great insight for the industry.
Yeah, you talked about listening to your intuition. Mine was Nancy saying, Freddie, you can do the podcast. You'll be just fine. And it was Bridget saying, I'll do it with you. We'll be fine. So
Yeah,
good advice.
there you go. Perfect.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye bye.
Bye. This has been another episode of Through the Leadership Lens presented by Women in Propane. Be sure to subscribe, download, and share with a friend. To learn more about Women in Propane, visit us on Facebook, Instagram, or online at www.womeninpropane.org. I'm Freddie Riddler.
And I'm Bridget Kidd. Thanks for listening. Until next time.